The college basketball experience Ivy League 24-25 season preview edition on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with that promo code TCESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. That is the Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by, Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL today with the Rhythm models. Get on over there, 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome, everybody, into the college basketball experience Ivy League. We are counting down the days till the season starts next Sunday. November the 3rd is the first pick show. Season starts Monday, November 4th. But in the meantime, doubleheader over here on Sunday, October the 27th, because we just did Conference USA. Now we're doing the Ivy League. First up, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. Also known as Mac tonight over here at the College Experience, and let's bring this guy in. He knows a little thing about the Ivy League because, he is the window banging, drywall hanging, LeBaron driving, having, cocktail napkin grabbing. Noah Bieniek, a.k.a. Noah B77. Noah, counting down the days, baby.
Yeah, the Ivy League is a necessity to preview. We talked about it pre-show. It might not be your favorite league. Might not be my favorite league. I tend to. I mean, I'm more straight up than you are. You like 29 of these 31 leagues, and this is like one of the ones that you will go out of your way to shit on. Don't worry, I'm going to speak for you because that's exactly what you told me in the pre-show. But Mac, I wanted to. It's Sunday night, okay? So after this NFL football slate, my Lions destroyed the shit out of Tennessee. But your Redskins, as you belovedly call them, the Washington team that plays football in Virginia, won tonight's game in a pretty exciting fashion. Your thoughts? Because it's the Ivy League. We've got 8 teams here. And you're buzzing. Tell me what that feeling was like.
Oh, dude, I went from extremely fucking pissed off because they had led the game for 59 and a half minutes, and I'm like, oh my god, classic Redskins. They expectations are starting to get a little high. They had the game won, and then They give up the touchdown, and then shout out to the guy, number 29 on the Bears, that was taunting the fans, and then they give up a Hail Mary. Jaden Daniels is fun to watch, man. I'm just, knock on wood, I hope he stays healthy. I'm a little alarmed that he's already been hurt twice in 6 weeks, and he was banged up in and out at LSU. But if he stays healthy, man, he's the real deal. And I will say this, man, I'm not the biggest fan of Caleb Williams and all his BS, but he's pretty damn good too. So, Bears, Redskins, it's weird seeing those two franchises like somewhat back in like a spotlight game in a meaningful game that you may see them again in the playoffs here.
And shout out to Frank Corbel. Even before we clicked live on this show, tipped us $1.99 3 times. So round that up to $6. We are appreciative. His comment is Bobby Hurley should be fired. Duke looks really tough. They can shoot, and this Con Knipple can shoot. Mac, secret scrimmage season is upon us. Last week, and actually 2 weeks ago, was the beginning. last week it started to heat up. Everybody's basically playing a game this weekend, it seems like, and then it slows down next weekend, but there are some that are getting some last minute action in. Mac, I know you saw this because we also talked about this pre-show. Duke slaughtered Arizona State in Cameron Indoor, but it was 102-47, I believe. And after the game in the post-game press conference, there's a couple of clips from Bobby Hurley that are surfacing that are so good. I highly recommend you go out there and look at it. But one of the clips, he directly says, they only played their freshman All-American like half this game. And it's like, hats off to where they're at right now. And oh shit, to where we're at right now. I guess what I should say, you told me a story in the pre-show that I'd like you to say again in this show as well. But like, how much do you value secret scrimmages, and what were your thoughts after this gigantic score, which was televised, by the way?
I value the scores very little. I'm not going to lie to you, because I'll tell you a story. Once upon a time, we beat Purdue by like 15 or 20, and we weren't good that year. We were below 500. They went on to the Elite Eight. So it was who was the shooter that they had? Carson, remember Carson Edwards?
Yeah.
The year that they lost to Virginia was that year. So we beat the shit out of them. And then obviously they ended up having a hell of a year, and we did not. And then the Final Four year at South Carolina, we got the shit kicked out of us by Virginia Tech. So I don't look too much into it now. Get the shit kicked out of we won by like 15, not 60. That's a little alarming when you're losing by
sure.
60. So that's a little head scratching. And I know, shout out to our fans. I'm already getting. I got some tweets from Arkansas fans trolling the Big 12 because Arkansas beat Kansas on Saturday or Friday night in Fayetteville. I will say I got some eyes on that game. Arkansas, I mean, they're talented, man. I mean, they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Cal's teams are always talented. That's never a question.
But no, I joked with the one guy. Are you guys raising banners for exhibition wins now? Did I miss something? So yeah, don't get too excited or enamored and caught up in some of these scores. But that one's a little alarming. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Well, 100%. Like I tend to value those if you can see what's happening. Like if you could see that the coaches have agreed to, it's a little bit of a different style of scrimmage where they're only doing like 4-minute periods, and then it's a complete line change like you're in hockey or whatever. That's a different style. Or you could just do strictly scrimming from half court is another style of these scrimmages. I don't know if there's any other styles that you want to mention that you guys possibly played in, but like there's a lot of different ways that these scrimmages can operate from, and then scores get posted and it's completely out of whack. Last year, Michigan beat Marquette by 15 in the secret scrimmage, and Michigan was a dumpster fire, and Marquette was a Sweet 16 team. So it's like, I tend to value only what I can see, how the game is being played between the two coaches and all the kids on the team. Like what can I see is basically what I value.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's sometimes I don't know why, to be honest, everybody gets so excited to leak the box scores. I never really understood that, like from their side. I guess maybe they wanted some good publicity, but
yeah, I mean, like if you're a mid-major or like a low-high major that's not expected to be great, and you knock off somebody, like no offense to West Virginia, but West Virginia would want to leak the score that they beat Wake Forest, and Wake Forest is getting a bunch of preseason hype. Like that benefits West Virginia, in my opinion. But like outside of that,
unofficially, I got a couple text messages. The Mountaineers were on the right side against Wake Forest, but I can't tell you what happened in the game. I saw the highlights on Twitter because you're allowed to post the highlights to social media team, but you're not allowed to obviously leak the game footage because that's why it's a secret scrimmage, even though it's not very secretive.
Yeah, 100%.
Next year, remind me this. Next year, with all the coaches that we brought on, I'm going to put together the secret scrimmage list next year. I'm going to do that.
Our good buddy Rocco Miller's got one. He had one on his website.
Yeah, I need to do a better job of tracking that next year. So I'm going to type that into my calendar right now. So
all right.
Anyway,
last year, Yeah, last year in the Ivy League, Princeton won this thing in the regular season. They went 12-2 in conference, 24-5 in the regular season. I was lucky enough to see one of their games during the regular season when they played at Duquesne. Great game. They won on a buzzer beater. So that was a very fun experience. They went 11-2 in conference. Princeton went 12-2 in conference. They won the league. Yale went 11-3, tied for second with Cornell, who also went 11-3. But the conference tournament was played at Columbia. Columbia did not make the conference tournament, which only the top 4 teams get in instead of all 8 from the Ivy League. But it is what it is. I actually am not like too opposed to the only 4-team conference, especially when you have a Dartmouth team that went 6-21 overall, 2-12 in conference. Like, I don't believe that like they should even have a shot to knock off Princeton. No offense to Dartmouth. But anyways, the 4-team conference tournament, Brown, 13-18 overall, upsets Princeton 24-5 overall in round 1. Yale beats Cornell, and then Yale survives against Brown. Like, that was one of the best games of conference tournament week. I believe Brown was up like 15 points with 2 minutes to go. And Yale came all the way back and won this thing. And they went into the NCAA tournament. They knocked off Auburn. It was a great year for the Yale Bulldogs. Mac, any takeaways from last year's Ivy League performances?
Yeah, and Yale almost had picked off, who was it? It was LSU the one year, like 4 or 5 years ago. So Yale had been knocking, or they beat Baylor one year as well. So Yale's had a little bit of tradition. So actually, this is back-to-back years they've won a game because Princeton went to the Sweet 16.
Princeton won the Sweet 16.
Yeah, they beat Arizona. And then they beat Missouri. So back-to-back years,
Arizona,
Ivy
Missouri
has won an NCAA tournament game, and I do remember that conference final, like you alluded to, being a really good game. It's like a yearly tradition now for me, where I fly out to Vegas for.
You were in air for that one, I think.
Yeah, well, I always land like right at the halftime because I always take the first flight out of Richmond, get me up there to Las Vegas so I can get there early and get there for the selection committee, and before we do our shows, and then I always am. I'm always getting watching the second half of these early games on my Uber ride. So I watch that in the Uber. Great game.
Shout out to our buddy David Matola, who we met out there in Vegas, but his Arizona Wildcats lost to Princeton 2 years ago.
That was my money line.
You called that on the money line, and that was Colby's national championship pick pre-tournament. So that was great. I mean, this isn't the normal start of our preview shows, but there's only 8 teams here in the Ivy League, and my Wi-Fi is dog shit. So I was hoping that it would maybe get better as we BS'd a little bit. But let's jump right into this with the Brown Bears. Like I said, they finished 4th in the Ivy last year, 13-18 overall, 8-6 in conference. These Bears took a tough hit, and I don't know if it was before or after the media poll, because they received their first place vote in the media poll. They were picked 3rd, but Nana Owusu-Anane got injured, season-ending injury. So he was their returning center, averaged 14.5 points, 9 boards, 2 assists per game, over a steal per game in the front court, a block per game last season, shot at 47% from the floor. Huge piece to that team. They were going to have a really good point guard center duo, but unfortunately, they just have Keno Lilly Jr. this year, which honestly he's not too bad. He played 38 minutes last season per game, averaged 19 points, 2.5 boards, 3.5 assists. He's a little bit of a do-it-all kind of guy, volume shooter, shot at 34% from 3 last season. Outside of Keno Lilly, though, they return a lot of experience, but not a lot of minutes from last season. Aaron Cooley played 27. He averaged 7 and 4 with 1 assist per game. And then Alexander Lesbert Jr. played 16 minutes a game, 5.5 points, 2.5 boards. Mac, this team doesn't have a whole lot of depth, doesn't have a a whole lot of minutes returning, in my opinion, and they took a big hit in their projected starting five. It's basically Keno Lilly Jr. and the whatever band name you want to come up with, the Gamblers, because he's Keno or whatever. Mac, what are your thoughts on this Brown squad this season?
Yeah, and it felt like Brown got better and better as the year went on, and it felt like they were knocking on the door, and then they finally broke through in that conference tournament, beating Princeton, getting to the final, and almost beating Yale. You mentioned it, Dave. A couple huge losses. I am a fan of Keno Lilly at the point guard position. I think Brown will kind of be where they've been over the last couple of years. Middle of the pack in that 4 to 6 range. I don't think that they're going to be bad by any means, but I don't think that I think they're definitely a level below the Princeton and Yales of this league in the Ivy. And I think you agree as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have them just outside of the conference tournament this year. Again, conference tournament only takes the top 4 in the league standings. I think they're going to be right on the bubble for that. I have them finishing like 5th or 6th, like you said.
Yeah, they're a fringe Ivy tournament team for me. That's
really
that's it.
Ivy League tournament. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking NCAA.
AKA either 4, 5, or 6. So yes, no, they're not a fringe NCAA tournament team. Ivy League.
Alrighty.
They gotta outthink everybody and do this postseason format.
While we take a quick second for station identification, go over there and do us a favor. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or hit like/subscribe here on YouTube. The College Experience, we greatly appreciate it. It helps us out, both algorithms for both platforms that we rely on greatly. So only you guys can help us prevent corporate gambling from taking over, because we would like to continue to grow this thing. Like over the last week, the live viewers on these conference preview shows have continued to climb, and we really do appreciate a lot of the audience and community that we've grown throughout the last couple of years here working with Colby on the College Basketball Experience. So go over there and just help us out real quick. Takes 5 seconds out of your day. Thank you very much. By the way, I didn't mention at the top of this show, but my allergies are like a disaster right now. Totally congested, like in my nose, can't even breathe. I'm a mouth breather. And when I'm reading these advertisements, I'm struggling to make it through the entire one. It's kind of crazy. But next up for us, the Columbia Lions, Mac. And this is going to be a really interesting team for me this season, because they return one of the best players in the conference. I don't know if that's by nature of he's been the only good player on this team for the last 2 years, and he's been the only one that's, actually put up stats. But Geronimo Rubio de la Rosa returns after playing 31 minutes last season, 14.5 points per game, 4 boards, 2.5 assists, over a steal and a half per game, shot at 39.5% from deep, 44% from the floor. He's a 6'2" senior guard. He's kind of the leader on this team. He's been starting since he was a freshman for Columbia. They actually do return a good bit of production from last season. 81% of their minutes, the most in conference. They return the point guard Avery Brown, who had 2.5 assists last season, played 30 minutes, 10 points per game, 2.8 boards. Also, Blair Thompson played 25 minutes a game last season, 9 points, 5.5 boards, over assists per game. Shot at 40% from 3, 49% from the field. Mac, this team is not too shabby shooting it from deep. Kenny Noland, also 41% 3-point shooter. Zinni Adine Bedri, the projected 5, shoots at 37.5% from 3. Noah Robledo, 35%. Jane Cooper, 38%. They can chuck. Mac, what are your thoughts on Columbia? Do you think they're going to take a little bit of a step up out of the basement this season?
Yeah,
they were 4-10 last year, but they finished 6th.
Yeah, and what was crazy, Noah, was we kept saying they're playing well. They're playing well. Columbia's finally contending a little bit here, and then they lost their last 6 to end the year. So they were 4-4 right in the thick of things to get to that 14 tournament. But they're at the top of returning production, experience in this league. I think Columbia actually could contend for one of these 4 spots. I think that they're a fringe top 4 team. With all this experience coming back, they just need to be able to finish the season unlike last year.
Interesting. Interesting take. I think there's a similar kind of ceiling and floor in this conference. I think you're looking at 2 or 3 teams that are way above the rest and 2 or 3 teams that are way below the rest. I don't know if Columbia kind of climbs into that middle of the pack this year. I think Columbia is probably 7th, 6th at best. And I think it's kind of a similar finish to last season because, I mean, the continuity is great, but again, they were 4-10 in conference, and 2 of those wins were against Dartmouth, who had 6 wins the entire year.
Everybody beats Dartmouth.
Yeah, two of their wins were against the Big Green, as Avetta says. Port Dartmouth takes the basement. We're going to talk about that Dartmouth Big Green team next year. What'd you say?
Dartmouth.
Dartmouth. So yeah, under David McLaughlin, this team as well returns 71% of their minutes. Actually, one of the more experienced teams coming into the year, but again, Matt, is a retention rate that high good from a team that was 6-21 overall, 2-12 in conference? What are your thoughts and how you value that?
I mean, it does go both ways, like you said. I think they could win a couple more games in league play. I'm trying to remember who they beat. They beat Harvard and Yale, but and also, man, they weren't even close in a lot of their losses. I feel like all their losses were by double digits outside of like 3 or 4. So,
and they lose their best bucket getter from last year, and Dusan Neskovic. So he was 16 points per game, 4 boards, shot at 36% from deep. You know, that's a big loss for a bad team. Like, I don't know, dude.
And under McLaughlin, they've never finished above 6. So I don't know. I have them last. I'm not gonna lie. I think they're in the basement again. I do like returning production though, I guess.
You do? Okay. Yeah, I've got them 8.
If I'm gonna be glass half full on any part of it, I would say, hey, at least they returned some guys.
You're right. And they've got some older guys too. They've got 4 seniors, 3 juniors, and the projected 7-man rotation here. All of them played at least 17 minutes per game last season, but again, they lose their best player. And it's tough. Let's go through the roster a little bit though. Ryan Cornish returns after playing 22 minutes, 7 points per game, 3 boards, 2 assists. He's expected to take over the point guard role for Neskovic, who's out the door. Romeo Mirthel is his backcourt mate, played 22 minutes a season ago. Only 5.5 points, 2 boards, shot at only 31% from 3. Connor Christensen's a 6'6" senior, played 18 minutes last season, 2.5 points, 3 boards, 25% from 3. Brandon Mitchell-Day, 6'8" junior, played 25 minutes. He averaged 9 and 6, probably going to be one of the better players this season on the team, averaged 2 assists, 45% from the field. And then Jackson Monroe, projected to play also in the front court, possibly start. He's a junior, played 26 minutes last season, averaged 6 and 4 with 2.5 assists as well. Jaden Williams returns after playing 23 minutes, averaged 8-2. But yeah, Dartmouth is just not a pretty situation for me. Not a culture that I'm looking to back quite yet in the Ivy League. Mac, what I am looking to back, and quite immediately, to be honest, is Underdog Fantasy, because in just 1 week, college basketball season is going to be right around the corner. Their pickup has one of the biggest menus for all of sports: NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, NHL, and Boostober is upon us, which means that you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and much more. You can now use these specials in boosts on all flex entries. So you can sign up today with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. and we're back here on the college basketball experience. Mac, previewing all of the Ivy League teams in alphabetical order for the upcoming 2024-25 season. Let's talk about the Harvard Crimson. What'd you say?
You skipped Cornell.
That's the second show in a row. I'm off my game. Not feeling healthy.
The Big Red, baby.
My flu game has not been great for either show that we've recorded so far today.
In fairness to you, I was talking about Dartmouth, and it was like a transition. And so, yeah, you just went right into them.
All right. So, my fault. Cornell, last season, they finished 22-8, 11-3 in conference, which was tied for second in the league. The Big Red program has been a program that I've actually taken a little bit of a liking to the last couple of years on this show. They've been a little bit of a dark horse in the Ivy League where they're good enough to contend against the top teams, also good enough to not really fall to any of the bottom teams. They're like right smack dab in the middle. Jean-Jacques is the new head man here. Where did who was the guy here last season? Where did he go again? I know we previewed Brian Earl's team, William and Mary. He went to Bill and Mary. Yep. So I mean, really good program under him, or at least like really good momentum over the last couple of years under him. They were 22-8 last season, 17-11 the season before, 15-11 the season before, and then 2020 they were 7-20. So like huge improvements over the last 3 years. They promote from within, so that's a positive here for Cornell. Jean-Jacques is the new head man here, like I said. And they keep Nazir Williams, but I'll touch on some of the guys they did lose because I believe a couple of these guys transferred to Bill and Mary. Isaiah Gray played 23 minutes, 9.5 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 1.5 steals per game. He transferred out alongside Chris Manon, who played 22 minutes last season, 12.5 points per game, 4 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals per game. Sean Hansen transfers after playing 19.5 minutes, 9 points, 3.5 boards, 2 assists. Keller Boothby played 16.5 minutes, 5.5 points, 1.5 boards. Evan Williams played 5 minutes per game. Darius Irvin played 5 minutes a game. They all hit the transfer portal, and Max Watson is out of eligibility. Coming in from the transfer portal, one guy by the name of AJ LeBeau, transferring in from Washington State. He's a 6'10 sophomore, but did not play at all his freshman year for Wazoo. Like I said, they returned Nazir Williams, who's a big return. He played 25 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, shot at 33% from 3, 45% from the field. Surrounding him is Cooper Nord, who played 21 minutes last season, shot at 38% from the 3-point line, 45% from the field. He put up 9 points per game, 3 boards. Jake Fegan played 15 minutes last season as a freshman. He's looking to have a little bit more of an expanded role his sophomore season this year. A.K. Okereke played 18 minutes last season, averaged 7 points, 2.5 boards, 1.5 assists, shot at 56% from the field. Guy Ragland, he's a 6'8 senior, played 19 minutes last season, 9 points, 5 boards, 1.5 assists, 49% from the field, 40.5% from 3. They also have Jacob Beckles returning, Josh Baldwin, DJ Nix, Chris Kane, Ian Amegbu, Ryan Kachian, Adam Song Hinton, Hayden Franson, but all those guys played a little bit less than 6 minutes per game last season. So, Mac, in my opinion, on this Cornell roster, it's not as great as it's been in years past. It's really young as well. And when it comes to retention, the Ivy League's pretty dang good about it because it's tough for any of these kids to transfer out of a good education. They return the least amount of minutes from last season. I think the Big Red take a little bit of a step back this season.
I think that's a fair assessment. Jock had been there the whole time that Earl was there. In fact, Jock has basically been at Cornell ever since he stopped playing. He was on that 2010 Sweet 16 team when Donahue led them there. And then he's worked his way up. He was a role guy on that team. So now getting to run his alma mater where he played. I'm with you.
That's cool.
I think, it's a cool story. I think they're middle. I know I've said that for a couple teams, but
Yeah.
after those top two, man, they are not anywhere near Princeton and Yale from a roster standpoint. I think they're clumped in with that Brown, Penn, and Columbia.
And for what it's worth, when I say step back, like last year they were 11-3. I think they're going to be closer to 500. But like fifth place in this league last year was 5-9. So like I don't think they're going to have a 4-game below 500 season. It's just I don't think they're going to be as good as last year, but they still might make the Ivy League tournament. So that's kind of where I'm at for Cornell. Next up for us in alphabetical order, the Harvard Crimson. Mac,
they have not been as good.
What'd you say?
They have not been as good.
Well, they have a huge loss in the transfer portal in Malik Mack, who last year he missed 15 games due to mono, and this kid was insane. He clearly passed the eye test early on in the year. 33 minutes per game, 17 points per game, 4 boards, 5 assists, over a steal per game. He transfers out. He's now at Georgetown. And that's just a very tough hit for Tommy Amaker. Like last year, they were supposed to be a really good squad. Or I wouldn't say they were supposed to be. They were a really young squad, but had been, one of the better programs in the Ivy League. They lose their best player, their point guard, who played basically every minute of every game early on in the year against these high majors in the non-conference. And they struggled early in conference play. They were, they struggled basically the entire conference season. They never really got, going again. But they beat Colgate by 6 on the road. They beat UMass. They beat Northeastern. They had some good wins in the non-conference.
Mm-hmm.
They're still a really young core. Like last year, they were starting 3 freshmen, I believe. They brought in 6 total freshmen. This year on the squad, they've got 3 of those sophomores, but also a couple of those freshmen transferred out from last season. And Malik Mack, like I said, Justin Ajabor transferred out after playing 23 minutes, 8.5 points, 6.5 boards. You also had Chisholm Akpara, who was a junior, but he played 30.5 minutes, 16.5 points, 5 boards, 2 assists. He's a huge hit as well. What are your thoughts on the Harvard program? Like you said, they haven't been as good lately, but I still think they're one of the better basketball programs in the Ivy League.
Since COVID, they haven't been close to what they were. They've finished 500 overall in 3 straight years, 3 straight 5-9s in the Ivy as well. Once upon a time, they were winning 20 to 25 games under Amaker, and going to the tournament and winning tournament games. So they haven't been to the Ivy League tournament since before COVID. So it's definitely been a step back. I think that they have been hit by the portal. You mentioned it, Mac leaves. Towns a couple years ago. He was one of their better guys. They've been hit by the portal. So I think, like you said, they're a younger team. I think that they're in the middle. They're in that clump of middle teams, in my opinion. I just need to see. I need to see them return to where they were. They just have not. They have struggled to stay healthy. And Amaker is obviously a proven winner, almost winning 500 career games, but and winning NCAA tournament games. But just since COVID, the continuity of this program has not been there.
Yeah, it's tough. I will say, projecting a lot of
they recruit.
They do. I was just about to mention, they bring in a 4-star who was highly rated last, in the non-conference, I believe, is when he committed. It was like a big moment. Robert Hinton, he's a 4-star. On 3 ranked him 104th, but I don't think he performed very well in the winter, spring, summer, or whatever, and he fell. Or it's a case of, he committed to Harvard, and then the computer docks his rating a little bit, and he falls. But
they would never do that.
But Robert Hidden was a very solid get for Tommy Amaker in this program. They also return 4 guys that played 25 minutes in this program previously. It's a little bit of a stretch in that stat because Evan Nelson's one of them. He didn't play last year because of a torn Achilles, but in his sophomore season, he played 29 minutes, 8.5 points, 3 boards, 3.5 assists. He could easily be the starting point guard on this team. He's a senior, 6'2" senior. But I mean, Chandler Pig returns after playing 29 minutes last season, averaged 8, 5, and 1.5, over a steal per game last season as well. Lewis Lesmond returns after shooting at 38% from deep, 10 points per game, 3 boards in 33 minutes. Thomas Baddies, the second, returns. He's a 6'7" sophomore forward, 25.5 minutes last season, 7 points, 4 boards. Luka Ace Nateski only played 12 minutes last season. He's going to be a little bit of a contributor to this season. Tyler Simon played 14 minutes last season. Harvard's not going to drown, I don't think. I don't think they're falling into that 7-8 range, but like you already mentioned, 4, 5, 6, there's a clump of those teams that probably finish there. Brown, Cornell, Harvard, that's kind of where I have Harvard in that range. So anything else that you want to add on the Crimson before we move on?
Yeah, I think we hit the nail on the head with the Crimson.
Alrighty. Before we get to the rest of this conference here, Mac, Rhythm, SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on moneyline spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model or copy one of the top performing ones from the leaderboard, and Rhythm will give you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And the college basketball experience is also brought to you by BetUS. They're the best in the business. They've been around for more than 30 years, and you can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts when you're looking to cash out. BetUS is live with their Trick or Treat on Horror Street promo from now until Halloween. BetUS will be offering daily promotions plus a raffle entry to win a sports or casino prize pack that will be given away on October 31st. You can enter multiple times. Every $200 deposit gets you 1 extra entry. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. And Mac, I didn't mention it earlier during our self-promo read, but guys, we're so close to 12K. We're trying to reach 12,000 subscribers here on YouTube before opening tip. So we've got 1 week to do that. So if you could go over there and help us out, that would be outstanding. Penn Quakers are next up for us alphabetically in the Ivy League. Last season, Penn 11-18 overall, 3-11 in conference. Not the season that the Quakers were looking forward to having under Steve Donahue. And honestly, like, it seems like they have been a little bit better in recent years. 2 9-5 seasons and 8-6 in the last 3 full seasons in the Ivy League. I'm willing to give Donahue the better benefit of the doubt that it was a little bit of a down year for the Quakers. And sure, they lose they lose Clark Slasher, who was a huge contributor last year. 34.5 minutes per game, 18 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, over a steal per game as well. He was money from deep. He's a high major transfer. And also Tyler Perkins transferred out. I believe he went to Villanova. He played 30 minutes per game, 13.5 points, 5.5 boards, 2 assists, 1.5 steals per game. Both of those guys, huge hits to the team. Andrew Laskowski also played 15.5 minutes. He transferred out as well. Colin Chambers played 4 minutes. He's out of eligibility. But Donahue did work in the transfer portal, and one of the bigger transfer classes that you're going to see in the Ivy League. Dylan Williams comes in from Triton Junior College. He's a 5'11 junior point guard. He averaged 5.5 assists, 15 points per game, 4 boards. So he's a very solid player. I think that's going to translate pretty well into the Ivy League. And last season, Ethan Roberts did not play at Drake, but in 2022-23, he played for Army. He played 27 minutes for the Black Knights, and this was the season where Army was actually like good, feisty. They had Rucker was available that year. He was not playing last year. I don't know. We still don't know what was going on with Rucker, but he was Army's stud in 2022-23. And this kid was kind of like the Robin to his Batman. 12.5 points per game, 4.5 boards, over 1 assist per game, shot at 40.5% from 3. He's super solid. And then Michael Zanoni coming in from Mercer. He's a Mercer transfer, played 13 minutes per game. Look, Mac, I don't think that this roster has a lot of depth, and it's also not one of the more older rosters. But I think they're going to climb out of that basement 7-8 spot, and I think they're going to be contending for an Ivy League tournament position. I'm high on the transfer portal ads and Dylan Williams and Ethan Roberts, and I think Donahue has a winning season once again in the Ivy League. Bold take.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bold because Donahue throughout last year, he's finishing the top 4 every year at Penn. So, and then we saw what he did for years and years at Cornell. So this is an outlier, in my opinion. I know they had some injuries as well last year. So I think Penn bounces back in a big way. I trust Donahue. I trust the continuity and the culture that they have there at Penn. And the ironic thing is they beat Villanova in this down year. Yes. I actually think Penn is at the top. Penn is at the top of my others in that group that we're about to talk about.
I have the Quakers third this season.
Same.
It might have been a little bit different had Nana Use Nane, the Brown center big man hadn't gotten hurt. I might have liked Brown a little bit better. But that's a tough hit, and I think I have to dock them a little bit. So let's talk about the big hitters, Mac, in this conference. Princeton last season, outstanding year. Their follow-up year from their Sweet 16 appearance,
they were better.
They went. I mean, honestly, they were kind of better than they were. And honestly, Mac, like you saw other teams that had a little bit of a run, like Florida Atlantic, for example, they weren't as good. But this Princeton team, I mean, they met every expectation and then some, and then just stumbled in the conference tournament, and that was a tough blow. They were 24-5 overall, 12-2 in the conference. Mitch Henderson's squad. They do lose Matt Allocco to Notre Dame. Played 33.5 minutes, 12.5 points, 3 boards, 3 assists per game. That's a tough blow, along with Zach Martini. Played 30 minutes, 8.5 points, 3 boards. Also, Derek Sangster, Ryan Duncan, and Vernon Collins transfer out. But they returned Xaivian Lee and Caden Pierce. Look, Caden Pierce was the conference player of the year last year. 33 minutes, he put up 16.5 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, over a steal per game, shot at 54.5% from the field, 34% from deep. He's the big man that they kind of operate the offense through. Xaivian Lee as well, in the point guard. 31 minutes last season. He's a 6'3 junior. 17 points per game, 5.5 boards, 3.5 assists. A steal per game as well, 45% from the field, 34% from 3. Those two are absolute studs, best 2 players in the conference, in my opinion. Blake Peters is going to be also a big contributor here for them. Last season, he was 27.5 minute per game guy, 8 points, 2.5 boards. I think he's going to make a little bit more of an impact this season. Dalen Davis also returns after playing 15 minutes last season, and the same with Devin Austin, 15 minutes. They also have 3 incoming freshmen, CJ Happy, Malik Abu Dali, and Jack Stanton. Look, I remember Princeton when they brought in a big freshman class, I don't know, 2.5 years ago. And I was like, this team's not going to be as good as they've been. And all of a sudden, they go on a little bit of a run, and that freshman class was Xaivian Lee, Caden Pierce, and or not Matt Allocco, Zach Martini. Um, they go to Sweet 16 as freshmen, and it was like, holy shit! Like Mitch Henderson did a hell of a job, and I think that was his first year as head coach, right? Or am I wrong on that?
No,
But
he's been there. He's been there forever.
okay, yeah, I'm wrong on that. But what was I thinking when I said that? I don't know. But that was a gigantic year and caught me on by surprise because I was not projecting that at all because they were a super young roster. And I'm not going to doubt 3 more incoming freshmen here, along with Xaivian Lee and Caden Pierce. I think Princeton once again wins the regular season back. How about you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and you really just peel back and dive into what they actually did last year. 24-3 in the regular season, and their one non-con loss was at St. Joe's by 4. They lose back-to-back games in early or late January. Then they run the table. Then they have a bad game in the conference tournament, the dark side of March. Other than that, man, they were a juggernaut, and I think they're going to be a juggernaut again. They're the best team in this league. I mean, I think Yale's good. Don't get me wrong, but I think Princeton is another level above Yale. And Mitch Henderson has run a good program. Everything I said about Harvard, Princeton's been the total opposite in terms of since COVID, 23, 23, 24. So 3 straight 23 or 24 win seasons, 3 straight regular season titles, a Sweet 16, and 2 NIT appearances. This is a good program.
Yeah, that's a great point by you too. I mentioned the Duquesne win; they were a tournament team, but I also failed to mention that. I mean, night 1 they went on the road. They beat Rutgers. I think it was in Brooklyn or whatever. That was an all Rutgers crowd. Beat Hofstra. They beat Furman. They beat Drexel, who was a solid team in the CAA last year. I think they finished 3rd. They had an extremely good season. It's going to be hard to follow that up, but I think they could very well, give that a run for its money. So yeah, I think Princeton should be the easy front runner in the Ivy. Let's talk about the team that is probably nipping at their heels, maybe a little bit more distant than nipping at the heels, but. I mean, last year Yale finished just 1 game back of Princeton, 11-3 in conference, 23-10 overall. And this Yale team, look, they lose Danny Wolf to Michigan. Sorry, Yale. He played 31 minutes last season, 14 points per game, 9.5 boards, 2.5 assists, a steal per game, a block per game as well. He was, just an absolute stud, stat sheet stuffer. And also Matt Noling has been like in the program forever. It feels like 28 minutes last season, 11.5 points, 5 boards, 2.5 assists. Super solid player. He's kind of like the DNA of what you would want to build your program about. I think he took off the USC. August Mahoney transfers out after playing 27 minutes, 10 points, 2.5 boards, 1.5 assists. Luke Kolaya and Yusuf Basa Ama also hit the transfer portal here. But the roster still is all right. The two main returners last season, they lose 3 starters, 2 come back. Senior John Pulakaitis and senior Bez Mbang. Pulakaitis was also a super solid player last season. 31 minutes per game, 13.5 points, 2.5 boards, 2 assists. Shot at 40.5% from 3, 44.5% from the field. And Bez Mbang has been super steady for the Bulldogs. He's a 6'4 senior, 32.5 minutes last season, 11 points per game, 4 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals per game. Outside of those 2, you're going to look for some guys to step up. But again, kind of like the Princeton program, Yale is a program that you're willing to put some trust in, and they've got 2 really good pieces. Some other guys are probably going to build up around them. You got Nick Townsend, who played 18 minutes a season ago, 45% from the field. He's a 6'7 junior forward. And then also Yassini Garam. He's a senior 6'3" guard, played 14 minutes last season. Casey Simmons is a 6'6" junior, played 13 minutes last year. Or Jack Malloy, who's a 6'7" senior. Or they've also got 3 freshmen coming in, and Riley Fox, Isaac Salazar, and Jordan Brathwaite that they're also kind of excited about. But Yale is also, by virtue of program pedigree, a title contender. I don't think they're quite at Princeton's level, but the Yale Bulldogs are going to be second place for me in this conference. Mac, how about you?
Yeah, agree. And I mean, James Jones has done a really good job there over. Well, I mean, he's been there since 2000. It's hard to believe that he's been there 25. I think this is his 25th year. So, won multiple NCAA tournament games. Of course, last year beating Auburn, the way that they did was electric. He will be closing in on 400 career wins, so that's another milestone for him. His brother's the head coach at Boston U, which is ironic because they're both located in the Northeast. But they've had an identity. They play really good offensive basketball. They're disciplined defensively, and you know what you're getting with them, man. They're gonna find a way to win 19 to 23 games every year. The last time they did not win 20 games was 2018. So yeah, you know what you're getting when with a Coach Jones type team at Yale.
100%. Let's get into our preseason predictions for the Ivy League. We're going to rank each team 1 through 8 based on how we think they're going to finish in the regular season, and also how strong we think their roster is currently. It's a little bit of a power ranking compared to a final standings prediction. And we're also going to do our tournament champions, sleeper, and bust. Mac, I'll give you the floor for your 8th team. Is it Dartmouth?
Yeah, by a mile.
Okay, we're in agreement there. 7.
No offense, Dartmouth. At number 7, I have Harvard.
Ooh, ouch. I don't have Harvard there. I think I have Columbia as well. But I have Harvard 6. But I think there's at least 2 games that separate 6th and 7th here in this league.
At number 6, I have Cornell.
Okay. I have Cornell at 5. Who do you have at 5?
I have Brown at 5.
I have Brown at 4. Who do you have at 4?
I got Columbia making the tournament this year. Let's go, Columbia. All that returning production. They don't lose their last 6. They finish 500 and they sneak in.
Gosh, did you look at the strength of schedule in the beginning versus the end? Like I said, 2 of those wins last year were
they're all coming back, baby. Jim Engels got to get those guys ready. Brown and Cornell ain't that bad, and Harvard aren't that much. They're all the same.
I don't know. Lost by 19 to Yale, 14 to Princeton, 8 to Princeton.
Well, I mean, they ain't gonna beat Princeton or Yale.
8 to Yale. Like, I don't know if they're quite 12 on the road to Penn. They did beat Penn by 3. I'm playing the Patty C transitive property game a little bit, but I don't think that back half of the schedule is a myth. I think you're trying to bust a little bit here. I don't know. I don't see it with Columbia jumping up to a top 4 team. Like I said, I have Brown 4th. So who do you have at 3?
Penn.
We agree. Penn. The media poll had Penn 7th, so that's our sleeper this year.
Woo. What are they talking about? Steve Donahue, baby.
2.
Yale. 1 Princeton.
Yeah, and yeah. Okay. Conference tournament.
Princeton. They lost last year.
Gosh. Where is this game played?
I'll go chalk in the Chalky Ivy. Chalk City in the usually goes chalk in that league. This is a rare time last year.
It usually goes to the host if they're hosting, and I'm going to look it up. I should have had this prepped before the show.
Is it in Philly?
They're playing in Brown this year. So the 4 seed Brown. I'm going to take Brown. They beat Princeton once again. Princeton drops the opening round game in the conference tournament.
Damn. All right, get Columbia out of my top 4. Get Brown in there. I gotta see this matchup. I'll stick with Columbia. This is my bold take. Columbia gets there. Columbia.
They beat Princeton at Columbia in the conference tournament last year, 90-81.
So now Columbia is going to beat them at Brown.
And they lost to Princeton twice in the regular season by 10 and 9, but they won by 9 in the tournament. So interesting.
Bust?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna go Brown. That's gonna be a nice value bet on the 4 seed. I believe the 4 seed last year on Brown was like 22-1 to win this conference. So that was a solid look. Mac, we had our sleeper was Penn. The bust. Here's how the media poll went. Princeton finished first with 15 first place votes. Yale second with 0 first place votes, but Brown got a first place vote and was picked third. Cornell 4th, Columbia 5th, Harvard 6th, Penn 7th, Dartmouth 8th.
Cornell at 6 for me is my bust.
Okay.
First year head coach.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to set this thing up on a tee for me, Columbia's picked 5th. I have them 7th. I'll hit that baseball right off the tee.
You're hating on my Columbia boys. The magic is going to be there in New York this year. I can feel it.
Iveta says Penn is going to finish in the bottom half this year.
Oh, so she's hating on Steve Donahue, baby.
Fun stuff. Can't wait for it. College basketball season's a week away. Like we said, leave a like and subscribe here on YouTube. Also, do us a favor, like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you're going to listen to this on podcast platforms. If you're looking to follow Ryan McIntyre on Twitter, you can do so at moneyline_Mac. And if you're looking to follow Noah Bieniek on Twitter, you can do so on at NoahB77_. This has been the College Basketball Experience. Thank you for tuning in to the Ivy League Conference Preview. We've got 5 more conference previews to go. This has been the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. Adios, amigos.